Okay, so chapter 3 is about the cell. So in this chapter, we're going to see the main parts of the cell, which includes plasma membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, and their general functions. As well, we're going to see the difference between cytoplasm and cytosol. We're going to see as well the function and structure of the cytoskeleton and function structure of cellular membrane, chemical composition of this cellular membrane. You see part of it in the last chapter. And we're going to see the arrangement of lipids, proteins, and carbohydrates within this plasma membrane. And we're going to see more about the function of these molecules within the cell. And we're going to see mode of transports, like simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and we're going to see what is osmosis, osmolarity, tonicity, and we're going to see the different type of solutions that we have that influences the transport of the cells. So we're going to see the names as well of some modes of transport like pinocytosis, endocytosis, phagocytosis, etc. As well, we're going to see in some cells that are excitable, that they have a resting membrane potential or RMP, and how this RMP helps for the cells to maintain different concentration of ions across the plasma membrane and why it's important. And we're going to see as well the function of the different organelles or little organs that are found inside our cells. So the cells are defined as the base, or a cell is defined as a basic and structural unit of living organisms. And cells, of course, are essential for life processes. They help us to have a specific metabolism, which includes all the chemical reactions in our body that happens at a given moment. Metabolism is subdivided into catabolism, where you break large molecules to make small molecules. Sometimes it's necessary to obtain energy, like in the case of ATP. You can break it to make AMP and then obtain energy. Or it can be the other way. You can join small molecules to make large molecules, like when you're making proteins to repair a wound, for instance. And then also our cells are essential for growth, especially during younger years. They are essential for communication. It can make basically the brain to be aware of what is going on with the environment, if it's too hot, if it's too cold, if it's just right temperature, if it's too bright, etc. So you have communication between cells, and also is essential for reproduction. Haploid cells like sperm cells and egg cells, they form a new organism. And our human body contains over 200 different types of specialized cells that they cluster in specific areas, and they have a specific function. We have skin cells in the skin, liver cells in our liver, heart muscle cells in our heart. So they have specific areas where they are found and a specific function. In average, we have between 30 to 400 trillion cells. And all the cells work together to maintain homeostasis and support life. So we have a variety of cells shape. So for instance, the red blood cells are discs that have biconcave sides. So this is biconcave discs. We have elongated cells like the nerve cells. We have square-like cells in our surface of our body or internally. in certain areas, and we have cylindrical cells like the skeletal muscle cells. The shape is also correlated to the function. We will see throughout the semester how this is true. So what is common to all cells? So all cells have metabolism, which includes anabolism, catabolism, and another type of reaction, a chemical reaction, is called oxidation reduction, in which you have transfer of electrons between molecules. Oxidation is when you lose electrons, reduction is when you gain electrons. And they are essential for synthesis and for energy. Also, cells transfer or transport substances. So this is the movement of molecules in and out of the cells. Cells communicate, they receive and send signals. And they help with these signals to coordinate functions, so they don't work isolated. And then cell reproduction. What I told you before, it was reproduction of the organism, but also cells can reproduce themselves by dividing and producing new cells. You can undergo mitosis and meiosis. These are the two major processes for cell division. So our cells are made of an external structure that surrounds the cells that is called the plasma membrane. And we're talking about animal cells. And this plasma membrane, the function is to isolate and protect the cell from the external environment, as well allows molecules to come in and out. So it controls exchange of molecules with the environment. Inside the plasma membrane, but outside of the nucleus, which is a major organelle of the cells that has DNA and other molecules and small organelles, you have the cytoplasm, which is the fluid portion that includes the cytosol and organelles. And this is the site of major metabolic activity. The nucleus is the center where you have the macromolecule that stores genetic information and has information to control the functions of the cell. So basically is the DNA. Along with that, you have the nucleolus, which is basically the area where you make little parts of the cell that are called ribosomes. And these nucleus direct the protein synthesis. So here are the parts of the animal cell. This is the plasma membrane. This is the nucleus. This is the nucleolus. The nucleus is surrounded by a membrane itself. This is called the nuclear membrane. And this nuclear membrane has little doors or pores, the nuclear pores. Through these nuclear pores, molecules come in and out of the nucleus. And then we have the DNA located in this area, in the nucleoplasm, which is like the cytoplasm of the cells. And then just nearby to the nucleus, we have this major organelle, which is made out of sacs of membrane that we call the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Our DNA makes the messenger RNA. The messenger RNA exits through these pores and then enters into these sacs, into the rough endoplasmic reticulum. The rough endoplasmic reticulum has little structures attached to these membranes that we call the ribosomes. The ribosomes are the protein factories. And then these are attached ribosomes, but we also have free ribosomes. They also can make proteins. So sometimes this messenger RNA can just exit, go into the cytoplasm, and then you can make a protein in here rather than in here. Now, this rough endoplasmic reticulum will detach, once it makes the proteins, will detach part of this plasma membrane encasing the proteins, and they will be sent into the Golgi complex or Golgi apparatus. This Golgi apparatus will modify the proteins so that the proteins can go into that particular area of the cell where they need to go, or will export these proteins. So with this modification, it will give a particular tag through which these proteins will use to go into a particular area. So here we have this Golgi complex, and it will release these proteins by these little sacs or vacuoles. So this is the Golgi complex. It can be seen as the UPS of the cells. And then the cells have a sausage-like organelle that is called the mitochondria. Mitochondria has double membrane, the inner and the outer membrane, and the inner membrane folds and forms like a labyrinth. And within these mitochondria, we have a lot of enzymes that makes ATP. So this is the powerhouse of the cells. And the mitochondria has its own DNA and has its own ribosomes. So it's kind of a semi-independent organelle. So this is where we make the most number of ATPs. And then here within this cytoplasm, we have proteins that are called the cytoskeleton that gives a particular shape to the cells and also helps to organize the material of the cells. And in the cells, we have two centrioles. These centrioles will bind to large proteins that are tubular proteins, so they look like a tube. And when the cell is about to divide, these two centrioles goes into opposite ends of the cells to grab the duplicated DNA that it was duplicated, the chromosomes, and then pull the chromosomes apart so each daughter cell will receive equal number of chromosomes. Along with this, you will have lysosomes, which are little organelles that holds proteins that can break down toxic forms of oxygen. We can have peroxisomes, which basically do the same. And these lysosomes also have enzymes that can break down any worn organelles. Or when the cell dies, the cell can auto-digest into what we call autophagy. And then here in this cytosol, we have multiple ribosomes. Now, this cell, it looks square, but some cells, they have extensions that looks like fingers that are called microvilli. With these microvilli, the cells absorb nutrients and water. So now the cells are attached, the epithelial cells, to the basal part of the cell, or outside of the cell, the basal part of the outside of the cell, that is called the basement membrane. So these cells won't be floating within the environment. So what is the difference between cytoplasm and cytosol? Cytoplasm basically is everything between the plasma membrane and the nucleus, and includes the cytosol, which is the intracellular fluid, which is mostly made out of water with solutes. In there, we have sodium, we have potassium, we have phosphate, we have proteins, we have calcium, magnesium, any solutes that we have there. And this is the place where we have enzymes that help us to have many chemical reactions. So in this area, we also have the cytoskeletal proteins that can be subdivided into very thin proteins that we call microfilaments, intermediate size filaments that we call intermediate filaments, and thick filaments, which are the microtubules. These are very strong. These can pull the DNA apart, the chromosomes. DNA, basically, it is stored as chromosomes. And the function, again, is to provide a structural support, to give the shape. It's like the skeleton in us. It gives the shape to our body. And as well enables movement and trafficking, specifically going into certain areas of the cell. So that is all that we can cover up right now. Do you have any questions?